Jeff in Baltimore, buy or sell on the feud that could have happened but never did. Hulk Hogan and Evil Doink in 1993, or Triple H and Brock Lesnar in 2002. You know, Hulk Hogan versus Evil Doink the Clown in 1993 is the feud I never knew I wanted, but now I'm sad that we didn't get it. I'm buying on Hogan and Doink. I'm going to sell on Triple H and Lesnar. I wasn't a fan of their feud in 2012. I don't know that I would have been much more of a fan of Triple H and Lesnar in '02. I don't think I needed it 10 years earlier either. Heel Doink torturing all of the little Hulkamaniacs. Oh man, I think that could have been amazing. Heel Doink torturing all the little Hulkamaniacs at ringside. That would have been great. Have segments maybe where he invites a new kid each week, like up onto the interview platform, like DiBiase used to do when he would invite kids and people out of the crowd to, get money. And you could, like when DiBiase, he would invite them over and screw them over and be like, well, the lesson you just learned is that life's not fair. See, DiBiase was teaching life lessons at a very early age to all of us young wrestling fans. But you could have had Doink up there making them animal balloons and then popping them and making them cry. Oh, that would have been so great. But they could have gotten real sinister if they wanted to. That was still a very cartoon-y period for WWE. They were very cartoony with a lot of things they were doing. I don't know how dark they would have gotten in 1993 on WWE television, but if they wanted to, they certainly could have. Look, if Hogan were around full-time, which he was not, he came back, he was only around for a few months, and then he left. If Hogan were around full-time and didn't leave so quick, I think Hogan and Doink could have had a program like Hogan and Bossman. Hogan and Bossman never headlined a major pay-per-view. They never headlined a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania or anything like that. They had a big cage match on Saturday night's main event. They got some mileage out of that program. They took it around on all the house show loops and everything. But, there's been a story out there for years. And I think it actually originated with Matt Borne, who played Doink, and he probably wasn't the most credible source. But he claimed that it was originally supposed to be Doink against Hogan, not Crush at WrestleMania 9. But Hogan didn't want to work with him, and so the whole thing got nixed. If it is true, and Hogan nixed it because he didn't want to work with him, look, I don't blame him. You put yourself in Hulk Hogan's shoes at the time. Brother, you've been out of the company for a year. You're primed to make this big comeback heading into the biggest show of the year, right? WrestleMania. And the plan is for you to wrestle this new guy in a clown costume who hasn't even really been established yet. You got to remember, Doink spent the first 6 weeks on television when he, quote-unquote, debuted, watching matches from the crowd. He was walking through the crowd making balloon animals for kids, jumping up and down. I wouldn't blame Hogan in this instance if he said no. I'm not feeling it, brother. I wouldn't either. That's a match I think they would have been better off doing later in 93, not at WrestleMania, but I don't believe that match was ever planned anyway. I think Bourne is full of it. Either that or he got fed a bunch of lies, which is very possible. Maybe Vince or Patterson or somebody told him that they had an idea, to do something with him and Hogan at WrestleMania. It's like Bret Hart. Bret Hart is convinced, I think, or was, that, he was going to wrestle the Ultimate Warrior at the Royal Rumble in 93, not Razor Ramon. If Warrior didn't get fired, they were building to him and the Warrior at the Rumble or WrestleMania, and he was going to win. Do you honestly believe that WWE would have had the Ultimate Warrior put over Bret Hart? Or here's the better question, that the Warrior would have actually got along with that? The Warrior would have had such a belly laugh, we would have heard it all the way from here. Where did he live at the time? Arizona he was living? I could have heard him belly laugh all the way from New York. He probably would have quit the company on the spot just for that. But I don't doubt that maybe somebody said to Bret, hey, look, we want to, look, the plan here long term is to get you to the Rumble or to get you to WrestleMania, and the Warrior's going to put you over. I don't know why Bret would have believed that. So who knows? Maybe Bourne was fed a bunch of lies by somebody and he bought into it, but I just cannot believe for a second that there was any real plan on file at any point during the build-up to WrestleMania to do Hogan and Doink. I don't buy it. I mean, what it would have been what? Just a straight up singles match? I mean, Doink wasn't the champion. Hogan wasn't the champion. So what is he saying? It would have been just Hogan versus Doink one-on-one, no titles or anything on the line. I don't buy that. I don't buy that for a second. He also claimed, by the way, in the past, Borne did, that he was supposed to work with the British Bulldog, and that Davey Boy rejected the idea as well. What's funny about that is the Bulldog was fired only a few weeks after Doink debuted on TV. Now, I guess it's possible that Crush took Bulldog's place, and it would have been Doink's first feud. It would have been Doink and Davey Boy, but then Davey got fired. Now, in his book, Bret Hart does talk about Doink coming into the company, towards the end of '92, and he mentions that he mentioned something about Vince McMahon shooting an angle where Doink beat Davey Boy, but then Davey's wife Diana, Bret's sister, got in Davey's ear and convinced him, hey, you shouldn't be jobbing to some stupid clown. The problem with that, and I made a note here, I typed in Doink and Davey just to remind myself to look this up before I started recording here today. The problem is I cannot find a single record of a Doink the Clown British Bulldog match from late 1992 after Doink debuted. Not even so much as a house show match. Forget TV matches. As far as I could tell, Bulldog never lost to Doink because he never wrestled him. So I have no idea what Bret is talking about in his book. But I think a short program with Hogan and Doink, as ridiculous as that sounds on the surface, let's say Hogan wins the championship as he did at WrestleMania. And let's say he did stick around for a while. He didn't leave so quickly, right? He was going to be there through SummerSlam. And remember, the plan was he was going to drop the belt to Bret at SummerSlam, and Hogan wasn't feeling it. He nixed that idea, but that had been the plan at one point. I could envision a situation where Hogan and Doink for the championship would have worked as a title match in the middle of the card in June at the King of the Ring pay-per-view. Had he not planned to leave and had to drop the belt to Yokozuna, if he was going to hold it, say, until SummerSlam and then drop it to Bret, I think a short program with this evil, heel clown challenging Hogan at the King of the Ring, which at the time was a brand new pay-per-view, wasn't one of their big shows of the year, I think that could have worked. I really think that could have worked. I mean, that show was really just built around Bret anyway, winning the tournament. I don't know that you would headline with Hogan and Doink for the championship. I mean, look, they did Hogan and Yokozuna in the middle of the card. Probably because Yoko was going over. That didn't headline the King of the Ring that year. Bret winning headlined the King of the Ring. What harm would there have been had they built Doink up as this real sinister heel in doing Hogan Doink in the middle of the card for the championship, with Doink just tormenting him and tormenting his fans and all the little kids on television in the build-up to that match, coming off a win at WrestleMania against Crush, so at least he'd have a win in his back pocket. It's not so far-fetched when you really stop and think about it. I think that could have worked. I really do. Borne was so good in that role. He had a lot of issues, drug problems. He was not the nicest person in the world. There's a lot of stories about him, but he was very talented. And in that role, the original Doink, I'm not talking about the fake ones later on, he was pitch perfect in that role. And for anybody who says, well, we can't take the idea seriously of a guy dressed in clown makeup, the Joker did just fine against Batman as one of his main villains. A creepy guy in clown makeup who underneath is some kind of tortured soul. And on top of that is a good worker who could actually wrestle, and can bump for Hogan and do all those things. Yeah, you know what? I think that could have worked.